Is it gonna say something? Hi, everyone. This is Nadia, and today I'll be sharing a story with you, and I will use our issues and epics to tell it. So I'm trying a new approach where I don't create presentations because that just I get down the rabbit hole and create like 50 slides. So this is a story of my product manager, Dove, and I really quickly over 2 milestones creating North Star vision for the GitLab CI/CD templates experience. So we were very short on time and we knew very little about like the current problems around the CI/CD templates experience. And one day we just saw an MR that one of our engineers made that proposed lots of changes to the templates experience and lots of, it's a really, really great proposal. And this, by the way, is a new MR that was already broken off from that other much bigger MR. But when we first saw it, like it seemed like a really amazing proposal, but we could only understand half of it. And we were not 100% confident about the first half that we kind of understood. So it wasn't clear to us whether it's like solving the right or the highest priority user problems with the whole experience or not, because we ourselves didn't fully understand the problems and we didn't really have a vision defined. So we were really struggling with driving this MR basically into like some direction that is more rooted in the problems based on user research and so on. So we decided to very quickly wrap our heads around the problems and create some kind of vision, communicate a vision around CI/CD templates experience using visionary mockups. So we started by diving into some old research. So a few months ago, I ran this research around CI/CD templates, and it was a card sort, so it didn't necessarily look into the problems that users were having. What we tested was how GitLab users would sort the CI/CD templates into different groups to make them easier to search in the existing GitLab UI, like inside the templates dropdown. So like in retrospect, we should have started just with problem validation, honestly, because there were many gaps in my understanding about the problem and those as well. But still now this comes in handy because now we have this more granular information around how the different templates can be sorted into different categories and things like that. We also ran a category maturity scorecard recently, which was not directly related specifically to the CI/CD templates experience, but we looked at the pipeline authoring experience. And as part of this study, we tested how our own GitLab SREs and engineers would approach creating a pipeline, a new pipeline for a project. So of course, templates were part of that experience because templates are CI/CD templates is usually how you start a pipeline. You copy some kind of example or you use a template inside GitLab, and that's how you start customizing your pipeline. But we still had lots of open questions. Like we kind of had some bits and pieces of understanding, just like giving us enough information that, okay, this is a really important problem, but we still don't really have a clear direction. So we started a problem validation issue specifically to understand the template management pain points, like template management and usage pain points for large enterprise companies. So we wanted to talk specifically to our customers to understand what are those specific problems that large organizations are facing when using CI/CD templates. And using CI/CD templates for them often really means maintaining libraries of custom templates that they create, and they want to distribute those across the organization to enable CI/CD practices, to ensure compliance and things like that. Basically, anything that gets enabled using CI/CD pipelines, that's what templates can help with. So through these calls with customers that Dove very skillfully ran, because it's not easy to get a hold of those people. So we were looking specifically for people who author their pipelines. So it's Devon, Priyanka, those kinds of personas. And I just listened to the recordings, but it was very, very insightful. We together collaborated on analyzing the research. So we together tagged and created insights, which was really, really helpful for us to very quickly create a lot of shared understanding, because we would just discuss the research sessions. And yeah, it was like a very kind of natural flow. So that was great. So based on all of these insights, we started to get a better understanding of what are the current problems and opportunities that exist. So first off, GitLab templates aren't discoverable. How can we make them more discoverable? It's difficult to find the right template to solve most of your needs. So it's just difficult to search. It's difficult to because we don't have a search that like looks for certain categories of templates. You need to really type in the name of the template, which right now it's like very kind of based on GitLab features rather than the purpose of the template. Then also improving the templates would make GitLab features more discoverable. So how can we use GitLab CI to enable further DevOps stage adoption? Also, another big problem is that our CI/CD templates are used in many different ways. So you can just copy and paste a template into your pipeline configuration and then manipulate it there, or you can insert complete pipelines or like separate pipeline files into your main pipeline using various keywords. So some templates are designed specifically to be a workflow template that is just your onboarding template that you use to create the backbone of the pipeline, while other templates, like many of the templates our security team has, all of the SaaS scans and things like that, they're meant to be used with an include. So it's completely different way to use a template. And we need to differentiate how we treat those different use cases in the UI and in the templates themselves. And yeah, we also wanted to help organizations maintain libraries of templates, make them easier to share across the organization, and ensure that the projects inside the organization have easy access to all of those templates, and it's easy to get started with their pipeline in a way that is compliant and according to the company standards. And then some other things like templates don't have built-in versioning, and how can we make it easy for you to version the templates and to like as a developer creating your pipeline to make sure that the template you're using, it's the latest version. So these are all of the different problems, and it's a lot. So based on all of these things, we started also documenting how do our customers currently solve these problems. So clearly they're somehow operating and they're solving these problems in their own ways with like custom scripts and things like that. So the main thing, I'm not gonna like go into detail into this, but the main thing is that organizations often have a library of templates in a project or a group, and they simply link to this project or a group and tell their developers, hey, use all of these templates. These are the required templates for you to include. This is what you need to run in your pipeline for compliance. And some organizations have custom scripts that go into projects and check if you're running the right pipeline or not, and things like that. Other organizations don't do that. So it's really trust-based, and because of that, not very efficient. And the next question we asked is, how do our competitors currently solving for these problems that we've uncovered? So it was perfect timing to try out the competitor evaluation process, where I analyzed the experience for creating a library of custom templates and like how does it show up in the UI? What is the experience for the developer creating the pipeline with those templates using GitHub Actions and Circle CI. So if you're curious, you can check out this issue. which I haven't linked yet, but I will to our agenda. So based on all of these insights, we decided to create visionary mockups so we can actually communicate that vision in some kind of visual way to our engineers, and specifically to Shinya, who's been working on this big proposal to see like where it's aligned, where it's misaligned. And it turned out actually that it's aligned pretty much, all of it is aligned, but we just need to kind of prioritize and make sure that we focus on the highest priority features first. So probably the initial proposal will be broken up further to focus on some more specific parts of the experience, but we're still discussing that. So I don't want to dive into the mockups too much, because my Dove and I will be recording a proper walkthrough tomorrow and sharing with everyone. And also not everyone from my team have seen this yet. So it would be unfair, I feel like, to share it here first. I want to make sure they see it. But just as a little sneak peek, this is what we're thinking of for the experience of creating a pipeline for a project as a developer and organization that created a custom library of templates for you. So we would pull in those templates into the UI, and the templates will have tags and all kinds of additional useful metadata attached to them, which is what Shinya's proposal is all about, adding all of that useful metadata. And we will differentiate between workflow templates and templates that are meant to be included in your pipeline. So as part of your initial onboarding, this is the empty state for CI/CD, basically in GitLab. You will only see the workflow templates. And if you have organization templates, which are like group level templates, CI/CD templates for your organization, you will see them by default here, and you can still have access to GitLab workflows, community workflows, partner integrations, things like that. Hopefully, we can also use some kind of intelligence to recommend a template based on your project type. So if you have a node project, and we should be able to have the information, I think we show it like the major language of the repo in the repo page as well. We can recommend a template for that. So in this case, the Blue Spark team created this template for their Blue Spark projects. And as a developer creating a pipeline, you can easily just get started with the right template that already has all of the things necessary built in. So you can just like customize it, run it, and you're done. Yeah, and these are some of the thoughts we're having around the pipeline editor experience as well. So we want to start moving closer towards what our web IDE looks like, I suppose, and creating a more unified experience. This is just, by the way, I should have said, this is super visionary. So this is like the only option that I've explored for the pipeline editor UI. It's not gonna look like this, but this is the direction kind of that I have in my head. And you would be able to, again, along the lines of separating two different types of templates usage, you would be able to select a different workflow template, or you would be able to add a workflow extension, which is currently the best word we've come up with for defining a pipeline or a job that can be included in your pipeline. So it could be included using the include keyword, or extend, or like a child pipeline. For many of you, probably it's very confusing, like what child pipelines, extends, and that's how confusing it is, I think, for new users as well. So the idea is to provide two options at first, which makes it easier. And then once you get to the workflow extension and you need more, you can start digging into all of the nuances that we have for adding your workflow extension using different keywords. And we might add like customizable onboarding information to the pipeline editor. So in an organization where they have their own CI/CD practices and documentation and things like that, right now a lot of them use their own wiki sites for that. So maybe we could allow them to add custom links and steps and things like that into the pipeline editor sidebar onboarding, so their team can follow custom steps based on what the organization pipeline should look like. Yeah, so I'll be sharing more about it tomorrow. So stay tuned for that. But that was an overview of the process of how we got here. And the next steps are sharing this with our team, continuing discussions and iterating together with Shinya on his MR, which um, seems like it supports 90% of what we want to do here. So it's quite amazing that we were able to pull it off in 2 milestones.
This was awesome. Thank you, Nadia. I'm biased because we've seen this last week during the CI/CD UX call. And we have a couple of questions in the agenda. Vitika, do you want to voice yours?
Yeah, sure. So you have kind of answered this already, but I was just wondering, like, how does the new findings, they could be tied back to Sheena's MR? I know it's like in a very different, it's a whole new problem space now.
Well, Shinya's MR supports what we want to do with the UI quite a bit because his MR is about adding different types of metadata to the templates. For example, adding different template categories and things like description and authors and things like that. So it means we will be able to pull that information into the UI. Which the mockups are, a lot of it is about having that metadata and allowing you to search for your template using tags and things like that. So Shinya's proposal actually addresses that. But his proposal is, I would say, bigger in scope than what we ended up defining in the mockups. I forgot to mention, like, why did we focus on onboarding with the mockups? And it's because we see that as a big selling point for large organizations. If you're a very large enterprise and you have lots of projects, all of them need to be onboarded onto CI, and you're hiring new engineers that need to be onboarded onto your CI/CD practices. You're very interested in making the onboarding as smooth as possible, following your CI/CD practices, and creating these mockups would hopefully help advertise this. And a lot of them currently have already libraries of CI/CD templates. So if we can create the UI to share them, they can just hook up their existing library to our UI, basically. That's kind of the idea.
Right. And do you feel that the new proposals they could potentially alter the architecture that Sheena has proposed, or everything is in tandem already? Or has this conversation happened yet?
So we're still discussing this, but it's more or less aligned. Like, we just had a meeting today, and it's more or less aligned. It's more about maybe some of the things in his architecture will not surface in the UI. Maybe we will default to a smaller, like more narrow set of options in the UI, and then allow you to use more advanced features, like by taking to the documentation to read about it. But yeah, at this point, it's hard to say. It might shape into something entirely different. Maybe someone else will comment tomorrow on an epic and we will shift direction. But that's the current understanding.
But fingers crossed, hope this gets implemented soon.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I think I got the next one. I've tried out GitHub Actions quite a bit over the last couple of weeks for a small side project because I really wanted to see how it feels and how it differs from our own solution. And one of the things I noticed when using templates, especially from the community, is that it's really tough to understand what's going on inside these templates. So especially when there are community contributions, where you have no direct association with these users who have contributed them, you're not only concerned about the stability, but also about, is there maybe any kind of malicious code hidden inside that could like steal my content, that could like put something bad into my code? Is that something that has already come up for you and your team as a challenge? And how are you thinking about this currently?
We haven't really uncovered this problem yet. I think because we haven't really gone deeper down the rabbit hole of the community templates, because currently we don't really have that, right? But it's like a huge piece of an even bigger vision. But I think that's a really good concern. And generally, the current proposal that Shinya has around adding all of these different types of metadata, I think one of the drivers behind this is to make the template easier to consume and easier to see what's happening there. And then some other things, yeah, so we don't know what fields will be mandatory and whatnot. Like, we don't know those details, but it might help with that as well. But I'll get back to you definitely when we start asking more questions around the community templates.
Wonderful, thank you.
I want to keep us on time, but I have a question related to Auto DevOps and Configure. Nadia, can you tell us a little bit about how you collaborate or how the templates relate to the Auto DevOps adoption?
So, well, part of our vision is to use the shared workflows or these workflow extensions to promote such features as Auto DevOps. So Auto DevOps is currently used as a CI template that you include in your pipeline configuration if you want to run explicit Auto DevOps in your pipeline. So I think that would be possible using the new vision for having these workflow extensions. However, we haven't talked to Configure yet about this. Like they were aware of the overall vision kind of that we have for pipeline authoring through collaboration on Auto DevOps vision, the design sprint that we did together. But we're going to share it with them and have discussions because I don't know. We'll have to collaborate. That's the answer.
Thank you. Pedro, do you want to ask your questions? Maybe one of them, and then when we move the conversation, we sync. So we leave room for Vidika.
Yeah, that's okay. I'm going to ask the one I'm most interested in, which is the second one. But first of all, thank you, Nadia. It was great seeing you do a presentation without slides. That's perfectly fine. Don't worry about that. It was as informative and as engaging as it was a slide presentation, so don't worry. Also thank you, and I'm very happy to see the effort you put into the research. My question is, did you consider, like these are of course exploratory designs, but did you consider enhancing this pipeline authoring experience inside the Web IDE?
Yeah, so we want to have a unified experience for editing in GitLab, period. I think we definitely have way too many ways to edit, but the problem is that the current pipeline editor is built on top of a single file editor, basically. So we're in a tricky position. We have this thing that is still kind of like single file editor, and we want to take it more towards being like Web IDE. But eventually that's where we want to go. One thing definitely that we'll be looking at sooner rather than later is changing the navigation and looking at the commit flow. I think there's an issue for us all to collaborate on the commit flow inside GitLab editors. So have one pattern for committing inside all of the different editors that we have. But we haven't really made any like specific design or research effort in that direction yet.
Yeah, thanks for explaining. I would encourage you to, he's not on this call, but I don't know if he will see it, but to reach out to Mike Nichols, because he was heavily involved in the editor experience, to see if there's anything that you can do to bridge that gap and avoid creating a third editing experience.
Yeah.
Thanks for explaining.
Yeah, Nadia and I have started talking a few months ago about consolidating on commit flow, and that's under the remit of the editor group, which is my group. So that's something on our radar to look at soon.
Yeah, sorry, Michael. I was saying Mike Nichols, but you have been working in navigation and settings for a long time that I completely forgot that you were designer for the editor group.
Awesome. Thanks everyone for your questions, and Nadia for your presentation.